this is time set for the joint session of Granite County Commissioners and towns of Philipsburg and Drummond, joint meeting. Thanks everybody for coming. I see a flag.
Hold it up, not there.
Is there one?
I don't think you want to take it.
All right. Well, we'll dispense with the pledge, but, so I'll call the meeting to order, and I'd ask if there's any corrections or additions to the minutes, first of all, underneath your agenda.
I'll move to the
I have one. On the minutes, on the second page, shared responsibility between the county and the town for installation of ambulance. Actually, that then building, sewer and water, hook up that building should, where it should go up, right behind the ambulance. Page 2 at the very bottom.
Oh, okay.
What, can you say that again?
It says shared responsibility between the county and the town for installation of ambulance. Then it goes into a narrative. Actually, when you see the bottom line, it should be building should swing up and follow ambulance.
Correct. Yep. Okay. Good catch. Any other corrections or additions? So I'd accept the mayor's motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of minutes, say aye, please.
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes are approved. So tonight, best thing to do is maybe just go around the room this way and introduce ourselves. I'm Bill Slaughter, our Granite County Commissioner.
Scott Adler, Granite County Commissioner.
Chuck Hinkle, Commissioner.
Mike Cahill, Executive Assistant to the Commission.
Gail Lieber, Mayor Drummond.
Janet John, Town Attorney, Drummond.
Doug Bjorklund, Georgetown Lake.
Carl Sundstrom, councilperson for Philipsburg Town Council.
Derek Cool, Philipsburg.
Scott Lyons, Philipsburg Council.
Nicole Nelch, Philipsburg Town Council.
Robert Lenoff, Philipsburg Town Attorney.
Mayor Daniel Reddish, Mayor of Philipsburg.
Jackie, I'm from the paper.
Thanks, Jackie.
Dick Mata, Philipsburg.
Lana Gagliano, Philipsburg.
Debbie Peters, Philipsburg Library Board.
And Dustin Muley on the Philipsburg Library Board as well.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your attendance. Start off, the first item on the agenda is economic development. How about Mayor Lieber?
What I have is, I think I hope you saw that on the news they were taking comments, DQ was for the mine, at this time for the first permit that they put in for that application. And I haven't heard anything more, one way or another, if, they've gotten any or not yet. I can't remember when the deadline was. I believe it was the end of this month. It was. Let's see, you can see the Frosty Freeze area building and all of that is tore down. Some people see it as negative, others see it as positive, and so we just go from that. Also, as you can read in the paper, we're trying to do some cleanup in Drummond to try to help that economic development.
Good for you.
You,
Go ahead.
Gail, on that, the cleanup, we're talking about junk vehicles again. Are you ever gonna have another meeting on that, or is it just pretty much, I had 3 more calls today.
Now we'll write letters.
Okay. I didn't want, I gave your name, cause I wasn't quite sure how that.
That's fine. My number's on City Hall's door, so
Okay.
that's
I
fine.
just give you a heads up.
Yeah. Yep, no, and that's why we wanted law enforcement to be within the whole thing, because people get a little wound up about it, and it's not.
At least it's getting out there, people will see it.
It is, absolutely.
It's serious now.
Yeah, well, and I mean, all of the people we've talked to have written letters to or verbally. This has been going on for a year, you know, so it's not new, it's just enforcement, that's
Okay.
all.
That's
It's just
all
follow through.
Thank you.
Well, Gail, I just wanna tell you, I thought the paper did a good job, you know, with, explaining what's going on. And I think if there's any way that the commission can support your efforts to, because it is hard, but God bless you, you're doing the hard work and it's gonna pay off for economic development in the whole county. It's important to, you know, make the city, clean the city up so people wanna invest in the city. So I would just encourage everybody that, if you get approached by a neighbor, have them, you know, get a hold of Gail for the details, but let's support this. This is important.
Well, and it's not only for Drummond, I mean, I think
No,
there's
it's for all.
lots of places out in Granite County that people don't know that they pay for that, and they don't, I mean, I've had several people outside of city limits go, oh, I didn't know, you know, that could be, so.
Yeah, we tell people all the time, and there's probably more people that don't know, it doesn't cost anything if you have a junk vehicle on your property, that, you know, you just contact us, fill out a form, and we pick it up for nothing.
And it's not gonna be, we're not trying to make it a burden on people by any means. It's not gonna be here's boom, and we don't talk to you anymore, we just come in. That's not the way it is. People wanna think that, but we have to be a little bit more aggressive.
Well, we should try to work on it, let's see if we.
There's a plan.
Very good. Anything else, county economic development issues? Trying to think. We just had a meeting yesterday. Scott, can you remember anything that would go under that label?
No, they ain't, no. You?
Does Drummond smell any better now?
I was
It's
up-
good and bad, you know, it'll be a little bit.
I was up
longer.
there today, well, I didn't say about.
No.
I was up there today, I took a load of crap up there, and it's drying up so you don't smell as bad, and he's got it, yeah.
Well, what he's talking about is the animal carcass disposal. The commission decided that was it. It was just too tough on the citizens, too close. A good, great idea, but just in the wrong spot for a couple issues. Water issues that we just couldn't control the water that was coming underneath the pile and the smell. So,
John actually said today that there was a couple rock trucks that dug holes down that ditch. You can see the holes where they went under, so. But I mean, it's done.
we did a meeting with DEQ and we actually have an alternative site. So, the county will probably be out of the business hopefully if it goes through and it'll actually be run by a private rancher. You know, we'll do everything we can to assist him to get him set up and.
We will be out of it.
Yeah,
So, what do you mean by that?
The county will have a role, in other words, we pay, for the, you know, the disposal,
Yeah.
the water and electric, all that kind of stuff.
But I mean, you said that you would get, you would help them get it set up, just paperwork wise,
No, there's some equipment that we'll transfer to them, and there's like barriers, you know, the big cement barriers were given to us, but we'll, you know, try to do some.
Clean up everything
transportation.
that's there and take it out there, and there's some
Right.
hoses and stuff, and just give them everything.
That-
Not equipment.
that's
not-
already been
Right.
used for
Right.
it.
It was paid for by it, so it can go with it.
You know, in working with the state, I don't think, you know, the rancher has a lot of experience to do that, we'll help him with that. So, we've already started that process.
I have a question, just location wise, the one that you're currently gonna close, how close is the new one to that one? Is it,
It's
8 miles.
Cow Creek.
yeah, okay.
They were talking about Philipsburg.
Yeah, I'm just curious, yeah, so it's 8 miles.
So economic development Philipsburg that's not a site we picked.
Yeah, okay, that's fine,
So,
yeah.
But you know, I don't wanna belittle the idea. This is carcasses that attract predators and birds and disease, my God, it goes on, but if you cover them and, you know, they get cooked, it turns out to be good loam that you can use, so that's kinda what the idea is, the rancher wants to use, but,
But we never got no help from the fishing game and all that either, we're taking care of all their dead animals, so we're done.
It was a struggle.
Seriously.
Okay, so any other economic development issues for anyone? Questions? All right, we'll move on to Granite County update. I guess, the Flint Creek Dam improvements, as you know, we work under a license from FERC, the feds, and there's a long-term plan about improvements and maintenance on the dam. We worked through that. We talked about last time that they're throwing issues at us and reports at us that were not in the plan, that are really expensive to do. But, so you know, is there'll be a lot of construction work, safety work on the dam this year. The spillway and the front fascia, frankly, personally, I don't mind that at all. I think that that's what we should do, that's good public policy to keep up with that. Our struggle is with added reports and thousands and thousands of dollars of those kinds of things that have been thrust on us, so we talked about that last time. But what you're gonna see this year, we got a $150,000 grant from the state of Montana. We are gonna pull money out of the dam maintenance fund to more than match that, to do the construction. We have a dam engineer that does all the full-time stuff on that, Great West Engineering. And so you'll see a lot of work around the dam. We're told that there won't be a requirement for much dewatering. In other words, the dam will naturally go down to a level where they can just work. We'll have to see how that goes. And so, but every time we move the level of dam significantly, there's a bunch of people we notify. Landowners up here, Fish and Game, Forest Service, FERC of course, and so there'll be stuff, and we'll try to put stuff in the paper if there's any significant dewatering at all, but we don't expect that. Any questions about Flint Creek Dam improvement? Any additions, you guys?
Just update on that, it's, we've been talking through, and you'll see it in the minutes and stuff, that we're trying to work with FERC and hydrodynamics, because they just keep want, and we don't have no more to give. They're breaking us on the dam,
Yeah, we're down to about 120,000 in that fund.
out of $1 million. And now they want another 40,000 for a study, or earthquake study, and then they want another 20,000 for a 12D report. They're breaking us. So we're gonna have a public meeting on it, right?
Yes.
So everybody can kinda come in and see what we can do.
Is it meeting scheduled yet?
No.
No, we're just getting it out to the people, so we kinda need to have some ideas on it, and what can we do?
We reached out to the, first of all, we reached out to the senators and congressmen with a letter saying, hey, look, you know, this is over-regulation. All these studies have been done before, okay? We're being good stewards of the dam, like we think, where the safety stuff's all done, no questions, no cheap-in, it's safety, so we do it, we take it real seriously. But this additional stuff, like the commissioners were saying, are just breaking us. So we put that in a letter. We'll get you a copy if you'd like to see it. We sent it to both senators and the congressman, and we sent a copy to FERC. We haven't heard back from FERC. The second thing we did is, you know, they're actually going to come out and visit us, I think, sometime this summer, Mike.
Yeah, August 28th.
For a dam inspection, and I suspect that that will be a public meeting, and we'll have an opportunity to chat with them then. We're moving ahead with the construction that was already planned, but we have contacted the hydrodynamics who runs the power side of the dam, and there was a suggestion, I think Gail made it, it'd be a good idea to maybe see if they'll renegotiate, and Gail, that's exactly what we asked them to come and meet
He
with us
hasn't really
about.
got back to us, he said he's gotta talk, you know, same old beat, you
You've gotta talk to the lawyers.
I get frustrated over this.
But-
I guess that, you know, and they want these hydro dams, it's a big thing. But there's 4 in a row from here to Helena and then move 'em around that you can't run them because there's too many. Folks got their hands in them too deep.
Did you know Canyon Ferry Dam does not produce 1 kilowatt of electricity? I didn't know that either, but we were told that the other day by the engineer, and
Too much regulations.
too much regulations they had to reconstruct the, how to get the power from the dam, to the transmission lines, had to be reconstructed from there to the next place where they can distribute it, and it's several miles. And it doesn't pencil out, okay, so it's sitting there, it's irrigation water and control, I guess, of the Missouri River, but I had no idea.
Northwestern and the irrigators are fighting because Northwestern wants to charge them $7 million to run the line.
10 million.
10 million?
Is that what? So we learned some things as we start reaching out and to maybe, we didn't wanna have a public meeting with no ideas, so we're gonna reach out to the hydrodynamics, we'll make no decisions, but we're gonna have some stuff on the table. So you that own the dam can say, geez, this is a good idea, what's the way to move, and, you know, how do you feel about this?
Because they definitely are breaking us.
You know what, before you say it, Dick, I have to give you credit, for years you've said this was not a good idea, right? Go ahead.
Amazing.
I'd like to know what the annual revenue is. Are we still at $70,000 per year?
A little more.
It depends on how much power we produce, but yeah, right,
Okay.
a little over that.
Say 80, yes.
And then in reference to what Mr. Hinkle said, you have 110,000 remaining in the fund. Is that prior to the capital expenditures that you've had
That's after.
after?
Yeah,
So you have a balance in the fund of $110,000?
120, 110.
it could be a tiny bit more than that, because the county,
Between 100 and 120.
yeah, she's trying to do a calculation for us right now, Sarah is, so we'll know exactly.
Because we haven't got paid for last month yet, so.
Okay, in reference to what you're talking about as far as what hydrodynamics should be paying, I think that maybe you should consider renegotiating that contract. There's something in the laws that state anything that you have for lease should not cost the county taxpayers a dime. So I think that you've got a lot of room for renegotiation with them, and I think you should take advantage of that.
And Great West is supporting us on this, they're the engineer, they've looked in, and they're gonna get us some more stuff, exactly what you just said.
Yeah,
So we've started that
at the rate
process,
you're going, you're gonna be out of money
That's
for
what they said.
we've started that, I don't know if you heard us, but we started that process, Dick, okay? We
Yeah.
reached out, there was actually the meeting in Philipsburg, we had a little discussion about this, and it was suggested we reach out and try to renegotiate, and that's what we're trying to do now. And once we learn have some data about what our options are, we're gonna have a public meeting, and we wanna hear from the public about what they think is appropriate.
I think that's what you should do.
Okay, thank you. And I gotta tell you, once again, Dick has said for years, this thing's gonna bite you. But there you go. Okay, so any other discussion on or questions about Flint Creek Dam improvements? Okay, so the next agenda item, the commission was discussing, and we would just like to hear from Drummond and Philipsburg on your projects that we wanna help support. And kind of give us some idea. We're gonna move into a new budget. Doesn't mean a big deal, but we do wanna do the paperwork properly, so we appropriate that into our budget, the money that we promised you, okay? So, can you give us a little update?
For the water tower, so one of our concerns was how to turn the water off. We weren't really sure on, draining, but that's been resolved. The valve inside the pump house, we tried that. We actually had the firemen all there to do it, just so more than 2 of us know what's going on. Start date is supposedly June 18th. I don't know if that has changed. I know there's still, engineers, are waiting for one last detail with the coding.
Okay.
Other than that, it's.
So a question, just so we're not gonna hold you to this, but do you think that you'll make a draw on that money before, we get into our new budget or after?
You already paid us.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know we did.
Yeah, you already.
So you
paid us
have the money to go
I
ahead.
thought you were getting ready to start talking about you're giving
No.
more.
I was a little excited myself. Woo!
I had the entire thank you speech in my life. That's really big.
I was just about
I
ready to
was
go.
just thinking, but I gotta
You
go.
got the
look.
hair standing up on my arm here.
We've
Mine's
already given that money to us, so.
So, and you've got, it all set up to go with construction.
Absolutely.
Good for you, good for you. So, Mayor?
Yeah, we, approximately 2 weeks ago, we had an individual named Todd Coxhouse, who is an engineer with Pioneer Technical, pretty sharp character, and we took him up there with our Public Works Director to get eyes on the site. He came back, he was somewhat surprised, but he's got a real good idea for how to proceed, and he did the preliminary investigation. This Tuesday coming up, we've got it on our docket to vote on allowing him to proceed. He's put together some preliminary ideas. Once Tuesday occurs, assuming that the council wants to move forward on this, I'm feeling pretty confident that they will. He will begin the first process of topographical surveying probably Monday. So we're up and rolling with this. It's just we got to sign some documents. I like his idea. He's talking about a temporary bypass while we rip that line out. He's got to think outside the box because there's probably a component in this that's going to involve a lot of handwork. And so, these big-time contractors with the machinery and so forth, they get into that environment and but I think he's got some good preliminary estimates on costs, and he's got some real good insights into how to approach it. So right now, everything's, assuming Tuesday goes well, which I feel confident, like I said, then we'll just hand the ball off to him, and by midsummer, we'll be operating at least in concrete plans for moving forward. Starting with a survey, and then he'll go into the design phase, I suspect by midsummer. So,
Okay,
That's
any
where that's
questions
at.
of Mayor Rick? Or Mayor Leeper? Good, that sounds like the projects are moving on, that's awesome. So, okay, next thing on the agenda is the town of Drummond update, yeah?
Am I just going into my agenda items? Yeah?
Yeah, this is your
Okay.
time.
So, my question was, as you guys know, I was at the meeting with, Robinson, that you had with the solid waste. This is 59 pages of solid waste charges for the county. I have only gone through half of it. Do you know when the last time it was updated?
Cindy did it just before she left.
Okay.
So she's been gone probably a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay, so, I guess it'll probably spill into my other question of reestablishing a solid waste district. I don't expect you to make a decision tonight. You have to look at that, but there is some real discrepancies within this. And I don't think it's anybody's fault. I think some stuff, got, overlooked. We do this with our sewer charges every year and we find something. So, but, something as big, and I'm not blaming the Rancho Rock Creek, but something as big as a Rancho Rock Creek is only getting charged 9 units. They get their garbage dumped twice a week, and in the summertime, 3 times a week. That was by Mr. Robinson's own.
Yeah.
And they've never gone over, ever. The school's getting charged, Drummond School is getting charged 14. They get their garbage emptied once a week. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me, with it. So I would hope that you guys would reconsider reestablishing a solid waste advisory board. It's nothing more than what the planning board is. You guys make the final say with it, but with the advisory board, number one, Paul Alda's not going to be able to go and literally go look to see how many units should be charged. There's no way he's gonna have time. And I know just because my mom was on the solid waste board for years and years, and when I was in school, I got to ride around with her. What are you doing, Mom? You know, and helping the county. We're trying to figure out and make these units equitable across the board, and we need to do that. And I don't know if you guys have taken a look at this for a couple of years. This is how you charge
Oh, yeah, we did, last year.
We updated, in fact.
stuff, so, and I know you updated your charges of people bringing things in. Thank you. Out of, yeah,
Out of county.
so minimum charge is $7.50, and the charge for out-of-district customers is 20 cents a pound.
Right.
But really, I mean, I really hope that you guys stay with it as far as Robinson having to turn in. Who's he collecting garbage from? We're talking about $8,000 about a month that the county pays to have Republic haul in, and you know, I mean, I just think we need more.
Update and see where out, you know, catch up on some.
So we have discussed it, and, so what Gail's talking about is that we have one person that's a commercial garbage collector, as you know, Robinson, and we had him in, Gail was present at a public meeting, and what we asked for from him was, we need an accounting, your customer list, and, you know, what units, and we're gonna try to match that up with what folks are getting charged, okay? And right off the bat, he told us about Rockford. So, I think he was agreeing with us, but yet to be seen, we haven't got the list yet, but he said he would get it to us. So then we'll take that list and we'll match it up with, you know, what the charges are. But now, as far as the advisory board, let me ask you a question. What happened to it? Before we-
I can answer that.
Okay.
We got rid of it due to the fact that the conflict between some of them and, people that were working, and it fell apart.
Okay. Well, advisory board is as good as who's on,
Solid
okay?
waste.
So,
They were good
Solid
too.
waste.
and I think, you know, Gail's suggestion, we'll talk with the
There was
commissioners.
personal issues and stuff that started.
It was very unprofessional, it got to be that towards the end, but, you know, move on from that, let's go
Yeah, I
forward
don't think
and
that's gonna work
get
out.
some newer people.
I still think that even with Robinson hauling it, my personal opinion still is we gotta figure out how to justify on knowing how much he's hauling.
Yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
we can't go by his
having
word. I'm not saying we
scales.
can't trust him, but I said, you know, he gets a little bit here, and I've had my garbage halfway dumped, and then he goes, so he can only make one trip. Otherwise, he's gotta come back and make 2 trips down to Bearmouth. So,
I have a question. Mr. Robinson, he's the commercial guy that hauls garbage, I just want for clarification.
Yes.
Wasn't sure at first.
Yeah.
And he has an arrangement with the county,
yeah.
and is there a written contract?
He has to weigh every load going in, okay?
Okay, but like,
No,
is
he
there?
does not contract
Okay,
with the
so,
county. He's a private entity
okay,
that dumps, your units, okay? And, you know, I mean, that's part of the issue.
okay.
His truck's got 10 garbage cans in it. He comes in, the whole load's weighed, so we know what he's bringing in, all right? But we don't know from, you know, is half of it yours, 3/4? We don't have a clue, right? And he doesn't have any way of telling us. So I think the first step is to get his total customer list, okay? To match it up with how we tax for your garbage. And then, of course, the bigger question is down the road, is there a way that we can know what everybody's dumping? Is there a computer program, is there a way?
There is a computer program.
Yeah, the list, for example, to me would be in a page document in an agreement that says you will provide the following. And there isn't, at this stage, that doesn't exist.
There's no
Yeah.
No,
agreement.
he's a private entity that can dump, you know, he still has to weigh, okay?
Yeah, I
And,
understand.
and he has to, you know, but the way they've done it is they charge, if you have a residential unit, okay, you're gonna be able to dump 2,000 pounds through him, okay?
Mhm.
Without an additional charge. Next year you'll get, $125 on, for another unit, right?
Right.
If you got a business, you got 2 units. You got a business, you got your residence, okay? Now, I mean, first of all, we gotta figure out, like, big businesses, like, for example, Rock Creek. Not
Right.
picking on them, but, you know, no kidding, that's an issue. We have to get his list, okay?
Right.
And how much garbage he can estimate, you know, so that we can match it up with what they're paying in taxes.
Well, just not fair for everybody.
Right.
Yeah, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just, his agreement with the county is that, I'm referring to that exclusively.
He's private. He
Yeah,
has-
I understand he's
Yeah,
private.
he's not, we don't have any agreement with him.
You have, okay.
We
That's-
could.
That's what I'm getting at.
Maybe that's
Yeah,
the answer.
yeah.
I mean, maybe that's the answer.
Well, certainly you can stipulate those things, and I get there's some problem with delineating between private and what the county, I get all that, but if there was something, half dozen bullet points of
Well,
understanding, I don't know.
We've got down to the conversation, not this time, but the time before, we got to the down to the conversation to say, okay, we know you're private, but what if we had an agreement with you which required you to be able to weigh every eye? He said, you put me out of business, I'm done, I can't do it. And he explained why.
Okay,
Okay, but he's a private guy.
and I understand that.
So, but technology changes, right? Life goes on.
Right.
So I think, you know, this is an elephant we're gonna have to eat one bite at a time. I think the very first bite is get his information, match it up with what the county is taxing.
Right.
Solve those issues with,
So will you give him a deadline with that?
sure, probably.
That's kind of,
Well,
that's sort of where I was going
otherwise-
to.
We've asked for this before.
Right, and which leads me back to this written understanding, if you will. And if you said that to me, I would say, let me work that up. I'm gonna tell you frankly, it's gonna be expensive. I wouldn't say it's gonna put me out of business. I would just figure out how much it would cost.
Right.
And-
You have to
and-
have the evidence to show that that is gonna be.
Sure.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
That's what we look for.
Yeah.
We've actually, in the meetings before, we've had, you know, and we've sat there and went over, he said his trucks can't have scales, they can't weigh, and that's BS. I've been in the trucking business for quite a
Yeah,
while, and
right.
I know you can get with them.
Well, then he's not complying with solid waste.
Well, we're working on this and we'll keep you updated, but I think we're gonna take, the first issue is get the list,
Right.
match it up with the taxes,
We ain't got bad
solve
problems.
that.
We got lazy and we haven't, or I haven't, we got lazy and we never kept up on it.
Well, I mean, and with that being a private business, why wouldn't the county charge him to dump there?
We do charge them to dump there. But we don't know.
You don't charge Robinson to dump there.
No, no, but we charge, all that garbage is weighed and charged, okay? And the idea was, to the public, is that we'll take this off your taxes, and you can pay him to haul it, or you can haul it yourself.
It doesn't work. Just from
Well, it's-
personal experience, I'm telling you, it doesn't work.
Okay, well, this
Here's the other
was
thing,
set up
so-
before our time, but here's the point. That was the way it was set up, and it's evolving, it's
Sure.
bigger, and I agree with you, I think it's time to upgrade our.
So if somebody else came in with a business, solid waste dumping business, right? So, I mean, that's what I'm saying is that,
He don't, yeah, you know, you'd have to put ads out to get people to dump.
sure, I mean, that's what a business, right, but, I guess, that, what was said previous was, well, he's providing a business, so we don't wanna ruffle feathers. This was directly to me from Cindy. I know she's not here anymore, so we have to move forward, but I hope we're not stuck there.
No,
I don't see how we can be.
no.
I mean, I don't think we dare. I think it's time to
It
move
starts with the
forward.
list.
It starts with the list, and we'll move forward.
So is that gonna be by the summertime? By
I think we have to
summer?
jump on it now, cause right now is the busiest times that he's gonna be, just like our ranch, we'll keep bringing that up just cause it's easy to say. But right now, they got 180 some people out there. And this gal told us the other day there that they're so booked that they can't family, so think of all that garbage.
Well, and not only that, but the people that work out there, there's housing for that. And I mean, I don't wanna pick on them either, because in no way, shape, or form do I feel like the county charges too much. $125
You
for
know,
2,000 pounds is not
that took down here a year to work out, remember?
But also, looking at it from the county's view, we don't wanna be cutting ourselves short either
No,
with
no.
that. I don't know how
Well,
you're,
I see, and Max told me that he's actually gonna have to probably come in and talk about it up in a little bit, just because the Missoula County's giving him so many new. So I got a feeling he's gonna come in, and then, you know what that does.
well, it's a
our
trickle
rates,
down, yeah,
you know.
absolutely, yeah, but, okay.
That's just here, you know.
So, does anybody have any questions about Gail's questions or discussion? Okay.
So what about the advisory board, what, you guys will
I think we should
put that on
consider,
the
no, I think we,
agenda?
I think we could, for a couple of reasons, I mean, you know, it would be nice to have a place to appeal, you know, and where a group of citizens, not just the commission, would say, hey, I think I'm paying too much, or whatever, right? And so they would go to the advisory board to make that first appeal, eventually ends up with us if they can't settle it there. No, I think it's a good idea.
But I think we have to talk it over.
We have to talk about it.
Do it here, but
Sure.
I'd be interested in it,
Well, I
as long
think,
as it's controlled. Last time it got out of hand.
yeah, certainly, if there was a board put together, and I was putting the agenda together, number one would be get the list. That would be an example of, you wouldn't have to approach the commissioners about this, it would all be handled at the board level. They would make sure they got the list, because they would have the oversight.
We'll
Just as
get
an
the
example,
list,
right,
okay?
yeah.
We'll get it to you as soon as I can. If we don't see it pretty soon, he'll get a letter,
Right.
and then we'll get the list, okay? Trust me on that. And what we'll do is keep you updated, appreciate your ideas, because I think, all of us together can maybe find a better way of doing business.
Thank you.
So anything else, Gail, you got other issues on your time of road?
No,
Town of Philipsburg update, Mayor?
Yeah, number one here, we have the library transition, and I think most people are aware of the fact that there was a library district constructed, and that process is underway, and I might let some folks who have a little bit more knowledge on the timeline on this, the exchange is gonna occur halfway through this fiscal year coming up, is that correct? Yeah.
I believe so,
Yeah.
January 1st of
Right, okay.
2020.
Okay, and I'd like to introduce some folks here. If you want to stand and introduce yourself, Representative
Dustin Muley, Chairman of the Library Board. This is one of our
Deputy Peters.
And I might, if anybody on the committee here has any questions specifically about the library board and where they're at and all this, I would say, ask
The
them.
only question, I don't have a question, I just wanna say that the other board member,
Barbara.
yeah, she
Yeah.
come in the other day and told us a whole bunch of stuff.
She gave you the rundown? Okay, good. Yeah, we've got the budget here if anybody wants to take a look at it or anything else.
Now, she come in and she lined us up.
Okay, good. Yeah, she's on it. She wanted to be here, but she had a family.
Yeah, it was
deal.
good. I just wanna
sounds
thank
like
you
fun.
for it.
sure it is.
That's my
Yeah.
opinion.
And if the council has anything they'd like to add at this time,
I just wanted us all to be in this, take this opportunity, since we're all in the same room and Drummond's gone through this kind of transition. And I know that the library's been extremely proactive about meeting with the commissioners and talking to Drummond about how the transition should go. But I want to also let the library board have an opportunity to talk about the plans that they have for the library and kind of a timeline on what that would be too as well.
I didn't bring the plans with me.
Okay.
We have them in the library. We've got a drawing of what our plan's gonna be. It's basically the old fire hall that's next door, kind of between the current library and then the city hall, and there's the old fire hall. We're gonna put the library into that, and it'll be kind of a general community space as well as a library. There's gonna be a kitchen and also some public bathrooms that'll have a door from the outside so they can stay open during, off hours. And I think it'll be a beneficial thing for the town, and then, we'll incorporate, it's the school district is what we turn the library district into. So we'll generate a little more funding with that mill levy.
Great.
So there'll be a lot of logistics as we get closer to January and once those plans start kicking into gear. So I just wanna make sure that the lines of communication stay open.
Yeah, your library's been a huge help for us.
Good.
Cause you guys kinda underwent a similar deal. I know you
Yeah.
got incorporated with the school a little bit more, but
Yeah,
it's been a huge help, working with them, so.
yeah, they're good. Thank you, you guys, for service that you do for that too. There's a lot to it. A lot more than people even wanna understand.
Yeah.
I might take this opportunity to give kudos to the Drummond Library. If you've never been in there, you should go in there. It's amazing. You could have wedding receptions in that place. It's very nice, and it just shows really good faith, effort, and good dedication, so.
Lots of hard work.
And as far as our timeline, tentatively start construction next summer is what we're looking at, so, I mean, we still have a ways to go, but tentatively, that's where we're getting done for, so.
Good for you.
Okay, we are currently engaged in our, law enforcement contract, updating that. We've sat down with the council and had some, preliminary discussions, talked about, the past and the present and what the future might hold. And then our, town attorney, Mr. Medoff, met with the county attorney, Mr. Bradshaw, and did a little bit more fleshing out of things, and so I guess that's where it stands, if you want anything you'd like to add now.
Sure, I think we have a pretty good working draft, may or may not be the final draft, but, pretty well together for the county commissioners and the town council to review and, potentially adopt.
So just so you know, we're kind of in the middle of discussions. We had an initial discussion with our salary board, and we asked them to come back with some more data, and so we could lay out some options for them, which directly affects your contract. But, the idea was to be sensible about it. It comes down to the fact that, we've got some great law enforcement officers. We're lucky. And we want to maintain that, and it's an issue of, what available funds are there versus, how can we, give them raises or appropriately reward them and keep them on, because it costs a lot of money. If you lose an officer, that goes to another agency, and it happens all the time, small communities, training on cops, and then because of the money, they end up in Missoula or somewhere. And then we get to do it all over again. Well, guess who pays for that? People in Granite County become a training group for other agencies, and we do not want that. So we're sort of trying to balance the funding here, okay? So, they're gonna meet with us again on Tuesday, Mike? Yeah, and that's a public meeting, come on in if you'd like, and, we'll just lay out the options that were presented and let the, salary board, which is made up of citizens as well as all the elected officials, and, we'll have that discussion. If you have points, we'd sure love to hear from you, so.
What, do you have a time, Mike, scheduled for a time? Yet?
Yeah, we have, some things have changed. It'll be 1 or 1:30.
Okay, after lunch.
After lunch,
All right,
yeah.
thanks.
Or the salary, the compensation board is at 10:30.
Okay.
And that's on the 18th,
Pardon me?
Tuesday the 18th.
Yes.
Okay.
One of the things that law enforcement, I know, is gonna do with Philipsburg and they've done with us too, is, given a monthly written report. And I think that, we used to do it years ago, and I don't know why we stopped it, but now, so we know, where they're at. People, taxpayers can come and ask, well, for Drummond, it's $40,000, what do we get out of that? And obviously, we have the whole contract there, and now we'll have a monthly, report that we can add to it. I think it's good.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because we sort of initiated that, and we've gotten the first one out of the box, and it's looking pretty good, and, the sheriff's real open to it. He also thinks it's a great idea, and, he's able to, sub the production of it out to the dispatcher, what have you, so he's feeling pretty good about it, and he's open to adding stuff, so.
Okay, anything else, Mark?
Well, that's it.
Any questions, so you ready? Okay, so we're gonna go
Hold on, we got another question on here.
Okay.
I've got two questions. One concerns the PILT funds. There's a provision in the statutes that provides for the towns to apply to the Department of the Interior as subdivisions of the county. If you apply and you are qualified under those provisions, when the PILT money comes in, it will be deposited with the treasurer. The treasurer will then allocate the portion that you have requested, and that you won't have to go through all of this rigmarole about getting the money from the county commissioners. I'd like to suggest that you look into those provisions in the law, and that you apply for the PILT funds as a subdivision. The other comment that I have is that the fire hall here is in, it isn't in Granite County, it's in Anaconda Deer Lodge County. I'd say that in order to make sure that the validity of any of future meetings is there, that you look at the possibility of scheduling the meeting in Granite County per se, usually at the Granite County Commissioner's office.
Okay, thank you, Dick. So is there any specific questions for Mayor Riddick's report, or do you want to go into public comment?
I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question regarding law enforcement to the two towns. How many tickets of violations of town ordinances? Do you have an idea how many have been issued?
No, I don't off the top of my head, but I can provide that pretty easy. If you want, I can give it to you tomorrow. Does anybody else?
I would say Drummond has 0.
I would suggest, I don't know, I hesitate, but it's probably single digits.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I checked with the Justice of the Peace, there was one, and it was for a barking dog.
Right, and I believe that is state, it's a state violation. And I'll go back to what I've said a long time ago, that towns under a certain population don't have law enforcement per se, because you're being double taxed. The people of the towns are being double taxed. We're already paying for the sheriff. And that's why you're not going to have any tickets issued on town ordinances, because he won't do it. He can't do it. That's why you have a city police if you are a city. And if you're a town, you usually have a marshal. And there's one town who has a marshal, and that's a different ballgame. And I think you're spending a heck of a lot of money of taxpayers' dollars. And Dan, I read something that, what is it, over $80,000 now?
Currently, yes.
Yeah, I mean, you can hire somebody for the town itself less cheaper than that. And
I
as,
disagree.
Okay.
Yeah.
because for doing the town ordinances, the sheriff is still there. You call the sheriff up on a a felony, a robbery, whatever, and he's gonna go there, and he's going to issue a ticket or something. But he's not gonna do it on town ordinances. And the amount of hours per week is what? 32 for Philipsburg?
That's the agreed upon amount.
Right, and I remember having the conversation with Sheriff Imishall, And I asked him, I says, what happens if it's over the 32? He says, we'll still respond.
Right, and that's happening. I'm just kinda curious, you referenced a town that had a marshal, you said?
Yeah.
What town is that?
Is it Victor?
Where?
Victor in the Bitterroot?
Cause I'm more than willing to make a phone call and inquire.
Darby.
Darby, I'm sorry, it's Darby.
Okay,
And they have a marshal.
all right, okay.
And he, the sheriff actually basically is the one that does what the sheriff does here in the
And when the
marshal.
town marshal, say that person arrests someone, where do they take them to?
What kind of ordinances do you have in the town that will
Well,
merit an arrest? See, that's the difference.
I'm sorry,
What kind of town ordinances do you have that merits an arrest?
I'm asking about in Darby, what do they do?
Well, it's the same thing with
Does he write a
Darby.
ticket? Does he ever apprehend people? I'm just kinda curious. I'll make a phone call
No,
and find out exactly
yeah,
what he
go
does.
ahead.
I wanna point out that there are costs. In other words, if someone is apprehended, they need to be processed, charged and processed, they go to the county jail.
And it's under the sheriff, and it's under the justice of peace of the county. And there is no such thing. If you can find something in the Montana Codes annotated regarding a town court, let me know.
Okay, I'll make some phone calls.
Thank you.
So, I mean, it could be either way, but about 1984, when the peace officer standards and training required law enforcement officers to attend the academy, keep up with all their certifications, okay, and all this got expensive. What you saw was that many small towns like Three Forks and ones I'm familiar with, Manhattan and Belgrade for a while, and then they went back and became a city police office department. So it's just too expensive. I mean, you can't do it. You can't do it for $80,000, I guarantee you that, because you've got insurance on top of that, you've got continued training, you've got the fact that you gotta send them to the academy in the first place, you've got vehicles and equipment, and it just goes on and on and on. So what happened is that small towns a lot of times said, okay, for a extra 32 hours, okay, over and above what you normally would spend in that town, can we do a contract, okay? So, and that's how this all came about, and it actually, it went right back to how expensive it is to hire a marshal, or any law enforcement officer. Because there isn't sort of a law enforcement officer anymore in Montana, there's no special deputies, there's nothing like that. There's a law enforcement officer, call him a marshal, call him a sheriff's deputy, call him a city policeman, or call him highway patrol, but they will meet the peace officer standard and training requirements. So that's what happened, okay? And I think we have a pretty good relationship. I think we're damn lucky to have the sheriff we have, and you know, our relationship with either the city and the county, we're real supportive of that. I don't think you're gonna get it done cheaper.
Well, just one more point, okay? You have the Georgetown Lake area, they respond there, they don't pay anything extra. You have the town of Maxville, you also have Hall, and they're happy. They don't have any need to have a contract with a sheriff.
Don't forget Bear Gulch.
Sorry?
Don't forget Bear Gulch.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Well, they're not towns, incorporated towns, okay?
That's right.
And
But
not
they're
incorporated,
towns.
But they don't have a town council, and they don't have a government, and yeah, it is a requirement of the sheriffs, to handle all those calls in the county. And you're absolutely right, by the way, all the people in Philipsburg and all the people in Drummond pay county taxes.
That's right.
And pay for the jail, and pay for the operation of the sheriff's department, so you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But it's a choice towns make if they want
And fine,
added coverage and added hours that are guaranteed to them.
they do it, and I agree, but there's a heck of a lot of things that town can get for $82,000.
Well, so we're sort of into public comment. Is there any further public comment from anybody?
I'm sorry, I thought you were
It's
done with
okay,
the
we
regular
sort of
session.
moved right in.
I was making my comments as part of the public comment.
Thank you.
I thought you were done with the other.
I wasn't gonna cut you off, I just let you.
Can I ask a question? What is it, do you know the Montana code annotated you were talking about, tilt monies? Is it in the code?
To you.
Did you?
What, I'm sorry?
You referenced about tilt funds. And
Oh.
not to have to go through asking the commissioners that there was a other way to do it. You mentioned subdivision, but is there anything in the Montana code annotated that defines?
Yeah, what I was saying was what's actually written in the codes as far as the towns, they're considered subdivisions from the point of view of the Department of Interior, and you can apply as a
Do you
subdivision.
know the code number?
I don't
That's
remember
what I was
the code
asking.
number offhand. I think if you look under the budgeting process, it's in that section there.
Okay, thank you.
Any further public comment?
Yeah, I've got one more, if you don't mind, since it's not much of a public. Some of you noticed that I've been going to a lot of meetings. I used to go to a heck of a lot more before with my trusty camera. I do put all these up on YouTube if you're interested. They're there. And you'll notice something about the inconsistency, and I brought this up to the county attorneys, of how these boards are conducted. And everybody's got their own idea, interpretation. I've mentioned before that Dan Clark from MSU does do training, and he came at one time before, and I understand it was excellent, to get everybody in the same book. What rules are supposed to be followed regarding minutes, regarding public notice. I think it's about time again, and this would be for all 3 entities, and all the advisory boards should go. And I'll just make that suggestion again at this meeting. And one other thing, the last time when I said that this, Dick mentioned it was out of the county, but it's a joint meeting. It's not held at the regular times. It's not held at the regular location. And I really think that it should be published in the newspaper, since it is a special meeting involving 3 entities. And I don't know if somebody was going to look into it last time, but there still wasn't anything in the newspaper about this.
Okay, anybody, anything else? Any other public comment? Thank you. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
When's the next joint meeting?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
What do you say?
The next meeting,
When?
they're discussing it.
That's what you asked.
It's like it's on 9/11, second Wednesday in September.
Should go to Rockford, yeah? That's
Yeah, I
who's
think
doing it,
they're due, yeah,
right? Isn't it? I think they're
from
full.
Missoula County. Just saying.
Don't matter, we don't.
No, it's an issue of,
We met up in Rock Creek, though, in Granite County at, what's his name, shop,
We did.
but I don't know if he'd do it again.
yeah, that is a good idea. I mean, it's
Ask
like,
him.
Right.
As opposed to the last one, which we did was in the other side of the road.
Yeah,
And
that
really
was, that was
cool,
pretty
it was
small.
Yeah,
too.
I agree. If we could get a better one that was on the
Yeah.
east side of the road.
I don't know who we're
Yeah.
gonna get. Barney said he wasn't gonna do that again.
what about the chalet? Is there a room there?
Barrel Chalet,
Oh, yeah.
put up out there. Well, I can call, or,
We can reach out to them, okay?
Can't hurt.
Is it okay if we, set the date and try to find
Find
a
a
place
spot,
in
yeah.
Granite County?
Yeah.
Cause you're right, it was pretty small. So we're gonna plan on trying to find a different place near Rock Creek and.
the guy's name's Paul, and his number's 825-9950.
And don't go down the frontage road if you go that way.
Well, you can get around, you can go
Right
to
there,
that.
Yeah, but
It's in good shape.
So here's the deal, so, we'll, get back with you on that, but what about the date?
9/11, and we'll try to have it at Bearmouth Chalet, that's Granite County.
Okay, is there any opposition to that? Okay, we'll give that a shot.
6 o'clock, same time, 6
Sure.
o'clock.
Good deal.
That's it.
Okay,
I'd also like to recommend that you publish notice of the meeting in the newspaper so that the public can participate.
okay. Anything else on the meeting? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.